Hi again, everybody, and welcome to Inside Golf. Coming up on today's show, we're going to be talking to an artist who has Philadelphia roots, who was commissioned by the Philadelphia section of the PGA to come up with a poster commemorating its centennial year. His name is Lee Wybransky, and he'll show us what he came up with. Also, we'll talk about the Ed Snider Youth Hockey Foundation and the Snider Cup. It's been going on for some time now in the Philadelphia area, and this year there's a new twist. So we'll talk about the Philly section, its centennial poster, and also changes in the Snider Cup. Right here, next on Inside Golf.
The 24th season of Inside Golf is presented by Destination Montco Golf. 50 courses, over 300,000 yards. Check them out at montcogolf.com. By the First Tee Greater Philadelphia, building game changers. The First Tee not only helps young men and women become better golfers, but most important, better people. Get involved. Visit firstteephiladelphia.org. By Gap, celebrating amateur golf since 1897. By Jersey Man and Philly Man Magazine, a digital publication and private business network. Read the current issue, free at jerseymanmagazine.com. And by Inside Golf's partner since 1998, the Philadelphia PGA section, the experts in the game and business of golf, and celebrating their centennial year. Take time to thank your local men and women PGA professionals.
Golf is the great equalizer. For many, this journey is an escape from reality, a chance to be part of a team, a career opportunity. PGA Reach impacts lives through golf by lifting people up, giving them hope, and sending them down an alternate path that they never saw coming. With PGA Reach Philadelphia, as in life and in golf, the most important shot you take is the next one.
They're not just familiar faces. They're your friends and neighbors. It's their small businesses, a beating heart that makes a neighborhood a home. The places with a pick-me-up or a story that inspires, where you can share a taste of comfort with the personal touch that makes our world shine a little brighter. Support small and make a big difference. Make it local. Make it Main Street. Make it Montco.
And welcome back to Inside Golf. This is a special year for the Philadelphia section of the PGA of America. It is its centennial year. 100 years ago, the section began, and they're planning a series of events. And we have a special event right now here on Inside Golf. Jeff Surratt of the section, the executive director, joins us. Hello, Jeff. How are you?
Harry, how are you? Good to see you.
I'm doing well. Matt Fry, of course, director of communications. We see him all the time here on Inside Golf. Good to see you again, Matt.
Thanks for having me, Harry.
And we have an extraordinary artist, golf especially, Lee Wybransky, joins us now. Lee has his own company. He's a Philadelphia native, but right now he's in Flagstaff, Arizona. Jeff, as I mentioned, the 100th anniversary of the starting of the Philadelphia section of the PGA, have a lot of things planned. You decided to go with a special poster to get things started in this centennial year. And the man who was commissioned to come up with it is our guest, Lee Wybransky, has done for a number of big events. He is the man who was charged with coming up with this poster. First of all, the idea, where did it stem from, Jeff?
It's a few years ago. So when we got through our 90th anniversary, we really started some conversations about, what we wanted to do for our centennial and how we wanted to commemorate it. So we went through a couple of different iterations. We actually talked about doing a book and the cost involved and all of that. We kind of steered away from it. And then obviously having worked with Lee in the past and seeing all of his work, he's done some work for the Golf Association, seen that, it just kind of made sense from the ability to use it to help all of our members, to reach all of our members, to celebrate, this milestone for us and for it to be cost effective, but also leave a really cool mark on our legacy. So that's really, really what it came out of.
As I mentioned, Lee, you're a native of the Philadelphia area. You started your own art and design company, and in particular, dealing with golf. So I have to ask you, when it came time to come up with a poster for the centennial of the Philadelphia section, I mean, where do you begin?
It was a very challenging process, actually, as I'm sure Jeff and Matt can attest. I mean, a lot of what we do is highly collaborative, so I'm very used to working with the client on problem solving. And in this particular case, there were some sort of sticky wickets involved, meaning simply that you couldn't necessarily identify, typically any event poster I do or Club Centennial or something, there is a venue associated with the event or the milestone. It's unlike anything I've done before artistically. So it was a lot of fun. And, you know, a lot of times the creative process is like me playing a par four, you know, it goes all over the place before you get to the green. So this was a little bit like that, but I'm sure glad with how things ended up.
Matt is Director of Communications. Like Lee said, I'm sure you were part of that collaboration. Were there any one or two things that you wanted to make sure got included? And how is it possible to do something like that when you consider you have a 100-year history to deal with?
Yeah, that's a great question. It was tough, as Lee alluded to. You know, one of the things that we did want to have as kind of a focal point in this piece is our Centennial logo, which is kind of an amalgamation of our current section logo with a tag that says that we're celebrating our 100th year. And one of the things that we came up with as a team is to incorporate some of our past logos as well, as our brand has evolved over the past 100 years, as is our logo. So as you can see in the print that I'm sure we'll have up on the screen, there are 4 previous logos that kind of frame the new Centennial logo, which I think is pretty neat.
Is that the background, the setting? Where does that stem from, Lee?
So this is a combination of a couple of photographic images from the 1920s. The group photograph is from the first annual section championship, which was held at Tredyffrin Country Club, now defunct. And in that particular photograph of the original group, the background was a little bit washed out and not so specific. So we decided we'd isolate this group of players and contestants and put it against the site of this year's section championship, Aronimink Golf Club, which has arguably never looked better than it does these days. Although this photograph of Aronimink is for 1920, and it was secured via Jeff's help from the Hagley Museum. So we combined these 2 vintage photographs, and then I hand painted over top of them the type and the logos, etc.
Now, Jeff, I understand that each member of the section is going to get their own individual copy of the poster.
Yeah, they will. So, you know, again, one thing, the challenge was, you know, not only, you know, what we put in the poster and what we leave out, but, you know, how do we get it to all of our members? How do we include all of our members in this celebration? And this really made the most sense. So, you know, Lee's producing 1,000 of these prints that we'll send out, one to each member and to some of our partners. None of this really could have been without the help of Valley Forge Tourism and Montco Golf. They're a sponsor for our Centennial this year. So they were a great help in getting this done for us. And the work with Lee is really, Lee, it's almost 2 years now since that original conversation we had at Lulu Country Club, which is unbelievable that it's been that long. And, you know, thanks for not running away, you know, as we changed course a few times, but it's really been an excellent process. Matt was an incredible help, and Lee, obviously, with his incredible talent, really, you know, brought this thing together. It's been a lot of fun.
Our thanks to Jeff and to Matt, and especially to Lee. Lee, plug yourself. Where can people find out more about what you do?
Sure. LeeWybranski.com, LeeWybranski.com. Everything we've pretty much ever done can be seen or viewed there.
Well, we look forward to seeing how the reception is for this work, and I'm sure you'll be getting a lot of contacts, not only from our viewers, but from people around the country once they hear about it. Thanks, gentlemen, for joining us on Inside Golf to talk about the Centennial poster of the Philadelphia section. Stay with us. Next up on Inside Golf, the Flyers, in their long history, are not just about hockey. We'll talk about the Snider Cup and the foundation in the legacy of Ed Snider and some special things they have planned this year. That's next here on Inside Golf.
range of BMW X vehicles available no matter what adventure lies around the corner. There's an X for that. The best-selling BMW X3 lease the 2021 X3 for $449 per month.
Welcome back to Inside Golf. Time to talk a little bit of hockey and golf and where the two mix when it comes to the Ed Snider Hockey Youth Foundation. It all began in 2005. Of course, Ed Snider was a big part of sports in Philadelphia, not just with hockey. In fact, in a 1999 Philadelphia Daily News poll of movers and shakers and the greatest movers and shakers in Philadelphia sports history, Ed Snider was ranked #1. He was an owner at one time of the Philadelphia Eagles, of the Philadelphia 76ers, and, of course, the Philadelphia Flyers. It may have been his greatest love story. But in any event, in 2005, Mr. Snider began the Ed Snider Hockey Youth Foundation. And what it tried to achieve was to build lives and unite communities, tried to assure that inner city young men and women in Philadelphia had an opportunity to succeed in the game of life. And over the course of time, the game of golf has kind of mixed in with the foundation to be a major benefactor. A big part of the Hockey Youth Foundation, the Ed Snider Hockey Youth Foundation, has been Bill Whitmore. He's been the chairman the last 5 years. And Bill, we're here at Applebrook Golf Club, where you're going to have a big event, the Snider Cup, one of 4 locations this year. But let's talk about what this foundation has meant to you over the past several years of your involvement.
Well, for me, it's a tremendous outlet to help these young people who are really in need. The average income of our families is $28,000 a year. So, you know, I'm getting up there in age, and I've been involved in a lot of organizations over the years. There's no organization I know of that has a holistic approach. So even though our name is Ed Snider Youth Hockey Foundation, the reality is that we are a life skills development program, educational support and development, health services, and of course athletics through hockey. And you know, we always kid around and say, you know, we hook the kids with hockey, but then we deliver all these other services to them. So if you think about our kids, we have about 1,900 kids in our program on a regular basis. We've touched about 25,000 kids over the years, and we take the kids from crayons to careers.
Wow, I love this slogan, from crayons to careers.
Correct.
And you're involved, or the foundation is involved with these kids, not just once or twice a month,
right,
but 5 days a week. Tell us about that.
Well, the average, I call them student athletes. The average student athlete is with us 5.5 days a week. So during the week, they come to our program after school. You're either, first of all, you have to be, you have to have, you know, eaten, been hydrated, you're in uniform correctly, you're in your pads and everything. And then the students are either spend time on the ice or time in the classroom.
Golf has been a major benefactor in some ways to the foundation. Over the course of time, how much money has been raised by some of the golf events connected to the Snider Cup?
About $15 million.
$15 million.
Correct.
Wow.
Correct.
This year, a little bit of a different touch with the Snider Cup. Explain what are in the plans.
You know, we look at, you know, we have to make sure we have the team every year. We have to figure out what the dates are every year and all. We thought we needed another golf program that would really be stable. We'd be able to have it every year. So our CEO, Scott Thorpe, came up with a great idea, and we've expanded upon it. So the Snider Cup, and anyone who goes online can type in the Snider Cup and you'll find it. But we're going to do a season-long golf event with daily winners and ultimately the Snider Cup winner. So we're going to play Aronimink in May, Torresdale in June, Applebrook, where we're doing this interview right now, in July, and Golf Mills in August. So between our daily winners and our overall winner for the Snider Cup, I think we're just going to have a great time.
So you have the actual Snider Cup competition. But what can some non-golfers do to get involved in helping to raise money for the foundation, and what have they done in the past?
So we do all kinds of things. We have a Bernie Perrant fishing tournament every year down the shore, which is not only great to donate to and be part of, but to see these young kids go in and have them tell you they've never seen the ocean before, and help them learn how to fish. We do a mock draft the night before the playoffs begin every year, where people go in. Steve Coates has been the MC over the years, and you compete with other teams around the country in an NHL authorized mock hockey draft. We run a constant auction online with great items. It never ends. It's all year long. So there's so many ways to get involved. So if somebody looks us up at Ed Snider Youth Hockey Foundation, they can find many ways to get engaged.
You know, a couple of years ago, we had the chance to talk to you at one of your events, one of the Snider Cup events, and Mark Messier was there. And of course, Mark was a villain to a lot of Flyer fans for so many years. But he took his time to come down from New York City and participated in the Snider Cup. And now, you were telling me before we started this interview, Mark Messier is taking what you've been doing here in Philadelphia with the Snider Foundation and the Snider Cup, trying to mirror that in New York City. Talk about it.
Exactly. Well, first of all, Mark had a lot of respect for Ed. And anytime we've asked Mark to help us out with anything, he's been terrific. I've had the good fortune of every time he's come down, I've played in the same group with him. And by the way, he's a heck of a player. So what he's doing, he's trying to do the same program in New York, and we share information with him. We've consulted with him to hopefully build that program in New York as we've done here in Philadelphia.
That'll be something. Before we end, I have to ask you this question. Did Ed Snider play golf?
You know, I have no idea. I know he played tennis. I never asked him about golf. I just have no idea, but he would come out to the cocktail party every year and enjoyed himself and was really happy with the success we had. But you think about what he did here, just for a second, his legacy. What he left us and enabled us to do is we can run this program in perpetuity and continue to help these young people in Philadelphia. And I just want to give you one example. 2 years ago at our senior night, where we bring all of our seniors in and do a big graduation on the top of Comcast Tower, a mother walked up to me and she said, "My son is the first member of our family to ever go to college, and he was going for free on one of our scholarships." She said, "A year ago, we were living in a car." I mean, these are the types of people that we're giving a chance, and you know, we're gonna stop the poverty cycle and really help these young people. And you think about all the kids we have, 30, 40 years from now, all the people they will touch.
Thanks for what you do for thousands of kids over the years, Bill. The Snider Foundation, this year's Snider Cup. Sounds interesting. And whether he was a golfer or not, somewhere Ed Snider's probably looking down and saying, "Bill Whitmore, thanks for what you're doing."
Well, thank you, Harry, and thanks for doing the interview with me today.
And a little reminder, over the course of the summer, we'll be in touch with the Snider Cup, the new version. Check out, see how the golf's going, and see who some of the big winners have been, besides all those hundreds of kids involved in the foundation in the Philadelphia area. All right, stay with us. More to come on Inside Golf. Up next, our teed-off panel is ready to go.
Percentage shot based on your skill level.
Welcome back. Inside Golf continues with our teed-off panel. We are at Lulu Country Club in Upper Dublin, and if you would like more on Lulu, go to their website, lulucc.com. Joining us today, longtime professional in the Philadelphia area, Mr. George Forster.
Thank you, Harry, for having me.
Oscar Mestre, he's the president of the Golf Association of Philadelphia. And Joe Logan of myphillygolf.com.
It's good to be here.
All right, our topic today is how do you make your misses better? George is a professional teaching pro. You've given hundreds, thousands of lessons. Is it a topic that comes up? I mean, in addition to the grip, the takeaway, the transition, do you ever get into that little, gee, you know what? When you hit a bad shot, here's what to do to improve your next shot.
I think the key is to play the percentage shot based on your skill level. And the skill level, like for Oscar, if he's in the trees, he may be able to carve it out of the trees.
A lot different than my skill level. Go ahead, say it.
He may be able to carve it out of the trees and get it up on the green or near the green. Whereas a 24 handicapper probably should just chip it out or hit it down the fairway and get it in a position where they can get the next one on the green. And the same thing would apply even around the greens. Like I tell a lot of amateurs, the most important thing based on your skill level now, let's say you're mid-teens and up, when you're chipping or pitching the ball, the goal is to get a putter in your hands on the next shot.
Okay.
Okay, whereas a player like Oscar, I mean, he wants to get it close.
Gotcha. Okay, he mentioned your name a lot. Okay, it sounds like you never have a problem.
That's a lot of
with
pressure.
making your misses better.
You know, it reminds me of when I was younger and I was, a little bit of a wise person, wise joker, and I said, hit one of those shots that cuts, goes through the trees, lands on the green, and I turned to my much older playing companion. I said, well, you know what they say, trees are 90% air. And he said to me, so's a screen door, and you don't try to hit it through that, do you?
Right.
Lesson learned. I believe that, to the point, at every level, you've got to find a favorite distance. You've got to find a proficient distance. You practice, practice. And I find too many amateurs that pick out the 3-wood on the second shot of a par 5 every time, regardless of where they are. Well, if you're not going to hit it onto the green with a 3-wood, put it back in the bag, hit to 100 yards or whatever you're comfortable with. Hit it to 80 yards, not just try to hit it and find it. I think that if you have that strategy, and that's a good lesson for good players too, leave it at a distance that you can comfortably function from that point forward. And I don't think there's enough people that do that.
Are you one of them?
George here was talking about Oscar. He won't brag about himself, but he's still quite the stick in the section. If you look at section events, he is almost always the leader of the 50-year-old guys and wins his share of senior events. So he's still quite the player. But what he said, I completely agree with. One of the hardest things for me to learn to do is to just take my medicine. When I hit a ball in the woods, either punch out. I do that sort of what you're talking about. Look at a shot and think, do I have a 80% chance of succeeding? If anything less than that, I'll just punch out, take my medicine, and get a bogey instead of a triple bogey.
Do you think its ego gets in the way of common sense sometimes with some golfers? I mean, what I'm getting at is like somebody that's in a par 5 fairway bunker, 240 yards away, and they pull out a rescue to hit it out of, the bunker. Really? And they're a 20 handicap. I should have said that, first. I mean, really? I mean, what are the chances of that shot doing what you think it's going to do?
I'm not sure it's ego. I mean, it can be ego. I think very often people just don't go through a thought process. They just say, second shot, 240, what's my 240 club? It may be that they only hit that club 240 once their entire life,
right?
But they've categorized that club as their 240 club, and they hit it wherever it is at 240. Again, I think it's just a flawed process. Too many people just mechanically or robotically walk up to a distance and pull out the club for that distance, not thinking of what the consequences of that shot are. My opinion.
I'm going to put you back in your teacher role. Is course management come up much in your lessons with golfers?
Sometimes, but not enough. But I could tell you a story. I had a 20-some handicapper come to me one time, and I had just sold him a new set of irons. And he said, I don't like my new irons. And I said, why not? What's wrong with them? And he said, I hit them too straight. And I said, wait a second, you hit them too straight?
And what was his handicap again?
24, 25, something like that. He said, I can't work the ball. I said, well, you got the wrong game plan. You shouldn't be working the ball. Play your go-to shot. If it's a slice, you got to play it. I mean, try to work it out and figure out on the practice range while you're slicing, but you got to be aiming for the middle of the green or left side of the green if you slice it. Don't be trying to work the ball if you're a 20-some handicapper. That's for a scratch golfer.
Right. You talked about George's competitive abilities. It wasn't that long ago, folks, right here on Inside Golf, we did a Haverford Classic. And George was part of a 7-man playoff. Took 2 days to complete. They played the 18th hole, 7 times at Sunnybrook over 2 days. And here was the winner. And a 6-figure check. Second time he's won that too. So enough said about this man's ability.
Thank you, Aaron.
He lets his game do most of his talking, except when he's on our tee off.
Appreciate that.
Gentlemen, thank you. We'll be back. More of Inside Golf coming up in a moment. That's it for this week's edition of Inside Golf. Thanks to Lee Wybransky for sharing with us the poster he created to help the Philadelphia section of the PGA commemorate its centennial year. And next week, we'll be here at Saucon Valley, right outside of Bethlehem. We're going to talk about what's in store next year, 2022 U.S. Senior Open. Mimi Griffin, she is in charge for the USGA of promoting that event. We'll also talk to Dave Kennedy. He's the general chairman. And it's the 30th anniversary of Larry Loretti's win at Saucon Valley in the '92 U.S. Senior Open. That's going to be a great show. I'm Harry Donahue. Remember, no matter how bad it's going for you out there, don't pick up. See you next week, right here from Saucon Valley on Inside Golf.
The 24th season of Inside Golf is presented by Destination Montco Golf. 50 courses, over 300,000 yards. Check them out at montcogolf.com. By the First Tee Greater Philadelphia, building game changers. The First Tee not only helps young men and women become better golfers, but most important, better people. Get involved. Visit firstteephiladelphia.org. By Gap, celebrating amateur golf since 1897. By Jersey Man and Philly Man Magazine, a digital publication and private business network. Read the current issue, free, at jerseymanmagazine.com. And by Inside Golf's partner since 1998, the Philadelphia PGA section, the experts in the game and business of golf, and celebrating their centennial year. Take time to thank your local men and women PGA professionals.